Hi, everyone, and welcome to our last Shopify Meetup, New York City. My name is Richard Carrion. I am the Director of Marketing here at Refersion, and today we have a stacked panel ready to be showcased today. But before we pass it over to the moderator, I'd like to just touch on a couple of items, specifically housekeeping items. So before we get started, one is you are currently in the main stage area, which will be going on for the next 30 minutes with a 15-minute Q&A. Following that session, we will have one-to-one networking where you can meet other attendees, connect on a one-to-one basis, and if you choose to, you can swap information during those sessions with those folks. And lastly, we do ask that you are respectful to all attendees as well as the moderator and panelists that are here today, since this is a place of learning. Also, we want to thank our sponsors, specifically Shopify, for helping us put these events on. And we also want to just highlight our hosts, which is Icee Social. And Icee Social was founded in 2008 by Mark Perini, and they help work with brands through social web, as well as working with a plethora of e-commerce clients in the space and to help them be able to deliver on efficiencies in their e-commerce world. Second is Lucid, and they're a creative agency based in New York City. And they're one of our hosts here as well. And we also want to thank our sponsors, Gorgeous. They are a help desk e-commerce platform. And if you have any questions about Gorgeous, you can check them out under the expo on the far left side. And our other sponsor is Shogun. Shogun is the next generation of digital experience platform and an end-to-end headless commerce solution. And you can go check them out and their offering in the expo as well. So I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Kristen LaFrance. She is the head of a really great podcast at Shopify. This podcast is actually one of my favorite podcasts because I get to learn so much about it. And the name of the podcast is called Resilient Retail. You should definitely go check it out. So I'll hand it over to you, Kristen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Richard. You're making me blush. I'm going to start matching my velvet Christmas dress here at some point. Guys, welcome to this quick little presentation panel talk today. I am super excited. This is actually one of my favorite topics, which is storytelling throughout your brand experience. So before I toss it over to the panelists, just want to take a moment and talk about kind of what this means and what we're going to be covering. So first, according to Shopify data that we pulled throughout the pandemic, 53% of North American buyers said the pandemic has changed the way they have shopped and will continue to shop going forward. So really what we previously accepted about retail, about e-commerce, about the way consumers are shopping can kind of be tossed out the window. We're finding our quote unquote new normal. One thing that we've seen is that it's virtually impossible to ignore kind of the psychological impacts of a worldwide pandemic on all of us. And what we're seeing is that a lot of us are looking for real connections to people because we've never been so far apart. And when it comes to shopping, that's going to come from local retailers, independent businesses with real stories and real opinions to share in the market. Consumers are going to go to Amazon for price and convenience. They're going to go to independent brands for stories, for opinions, for shared values. We've really seen that buyers have this clear appetite for small independent businesses with unique offerings and very personalized customer service and experiences. So we're going to talk today about how to kind of lean into those strengths in your communications and how to create a shopping experience that is very different and is rooted in storytelling. Before I toss it over to the panelists, I want to read this quote. Actually, I just interviewed Joanna Griffiths, who's the founder of Thinks, an intimate apparel company. They have really strong values for women empowerment and freedom. And I asked her in this conversation that I had with her is, why is it important for brands to have these stories and these opinions? And she said, now because of direct to consumer and being able to communicate, you have this dialogue that's direct in social media where you're putting out hundreds of messages a day and getting hundreds of responses a day. So now you can actually stand up for so many different things and own that and find a community and customer base that supports the network and believes in what you are doing. I think that just kind of summarizes the trend we're seeing, leaning into storytelling, leaning into being bigger than the products you sell or the prices that are on your website. So that is just a little preamble of what we are going to be talking about today. I'll start out by letting you guys kind of introduce yourself. We can go around the horn. Patrick, why don't you start?
I'm Patrick Hanlon, CEO and founder of primalbranding.co in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Awesome. Allie, what about you?
Hi, my name's Allie. I'm the founder of a direct-to-consumer company called Modern Picnic.
Hey guys, I'm Jarrett McGovern. I'm a co-founder of Rise Brewing Co. We're an all-organic nitro cold brew coffee company, and now we do more than coffee. We just launched a line of tea and oat milk.
Awesome. Well, why don't we just jump straight in? There's something that I feel like is always an elephant in the room when we have these conversations. We're kind of in this, we're not necessarily talking about hard data and numbers. It's almost this floaty idea of branding and connection and authenticity. But I think at the same time, a lot of us don't actually fully understand what encompasses branding. What even is a brand? It's really easy to think it's just kind of like the logos, the colors, the theme you use on your website. But Patrick, you and I had talked about this a lot previously before this recording, that there's so much more to branding. Can you start us out by just kind of defining even what constitutes branding in today's era?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing to point out is you're right. The brand is not the logo on the website, which most people think of. Brand is really, and if you ask 100 different people what the brand is, you'll get 100 different answers, right? So it's really surrounded by all this fog and misperception. Really, your brand is your story and the story that you tell. And brands are belief systems. Belief systems come about by telling stories. And we're told stories from the moment that we're born, right? We're told that we're given a name, and then we're told that we're a boy or a girl in a family, you're a cousin, et cetera, grandchild, son, daughter. And so the stories are also the way that we learn and the way that we choose things and prefer things. So if you can tell a great story, it really doesn't matter what in some ways, it doesn't matter how good your product or service is if you can tell a great story. Mm-hmm. But there's an axiom that if you tell a great story and attract people to a bad product, you'll die faster. But the brands are important because you have a certain set of time, right, and to create your company or service. And if you spend 10 years working at it, you will have a company that has assets, which is worth a set amount. But if you can create a brand through stories, you'll have something that's worth a multiple many times that. And I'm not just talking about becoming a billionaire by the time you're 33, although that would be great, but it's attracting people who share the same values you do. And if you don't express those values and those what you're all about, the trust, the vision, and all those things won't happen. And you'll be, even if you do have a great product, of course, I mean, 90% of all new products and services fail anyway. And that's why, because they don't have the story. They haven't wrapped it with the story.
Yeah, it's such a good overview. Jarrett, at Rise Brewing Company, I feel like you guys do a really good job of kind of owning the story around the products. I think it's really easy for people to think, we need to have some crazy founder story where you were hiking the mountains in, Eastern whatever country, and you had this epiphany and you came back and all these crazy things happened and you made coffee. It's not always like necessarily what you need when we're saying story. Like, yes, having an authentic founder story is very good, but having kind of just a larger story around your products and what they mean to the customers and how they kind of impact their lives. How have you guys gone about really harnessing like what kind of those stories are that your consumers connect with?
Well, yeah, I mean, we discovered coffee hiking the mountains of Chanchamayo, Peru, which is not really true, but kind of true. So we, I think it's really important to just be like genuine, and thank you for saying that. And I agree with Patrick is, you're trying to attract people that have like values to you, and it's really important. If my sweatshirt said Polo on it, it's the same as walking around and representing Polo as it is when you're walking around with a can of our product and you're representing what we stand for. So you want to attract, people that are like-minded with you. And I think now it's more important than ever to stand for more than just, what your product is, but what you actually stand for, because people can see that more than ever. News travels faster than ever. There's more things that we can control that with like Instagram and stuff like that. So what are you? What do you stand for? You know, and like who's rocking you when they are faced with the decision to buy 10 coffee brands? I like the way ours taste the best, but that is subjective. You know, there's other things to it. And I think for us, you know, like we didn't start our company to start a company. You know, we were literally at that time brewing in my apartment in the East Village, and a railway apartment that was a 1-bedroom, a studio, and a kitchen all in one, and also a brewery. And at that point in 2014, when we looked at what was available on the shelves, it was Starbucks Frappuccino, and it was you know, I used to get Dunkin' Donuts Big Iced Coffee. No one cared about the coffee beans. No one cared about being organic. No one cared about the water being filtered. And everybody just put a lot of sugar in the drinks. So for us, we tried to create the best drink for each other. And then we shared it with our friends and family. And we all had other jobs at that point, but people were like, this is really good. And we're like, yeah, I wish this was available on the shelves. And like, those were the moments like, let's do this. And let's try and grow a company and not compromise that. Let's not say, well, now we need to figure out better margins. I think we probably lost $20 a keg for the first, year when we were going door to door and selling kegs, because we were still buying coffee beans at the local cafe. But we were buying organic coffee beans because being organic mattered to us. And as we've transitioned from being an organic coffee company to being an organic beverage company, where we now do oat milk and can explore other things, we've created trust with our consumers. They know that we're not going to put bad ingredients that are bad for you in our beverages. We hope that they think it's going to taste good. And we try and kind of stay true to our brand and say, would we brew this when we're back at home to our future kids, to our future wives and husbands and girlfriends, whatever, and would we be proud of what we're putting out there? So we're not just trying to like create something that's the highest margin widget. We're trying to create something that we're really proud of and we want to share with people.
Yeah, you touched on something that I think is really important, and I've heard it in all of the resilient interviews that I've done, which is developing customer trust, and that storytelling aspect, and kind of peeling back the curtain behind what's going on in the business, where you source things, how you make decisions, all of that is becoming something that consumers are really looking for, because they want to know where their money is going, and they want to know what kind of sets of values their money is supporting. Allie, can you talk a little bit about kind of the storytelling side of Modern Picnic and how that has kind of enhanced the brand as you've developed those stories?
Yeah, so for us, it was a little bit different in terms of like the founder story, in that I started Modern Picnic completely out of a personal need. I was working in the retail industry in New York City, bringing my lunch to work every single day because, especially as a recent grad, faster, cheaper, and healthier, and all the girls in my office were doing it. And I quickly realized I didn't have a chic or functional or sustainable way to do so. And I was carrying my lunch in like paper bags, plastic bags, little shopping bags. And so I literally went online to buy myself a lunchbox. And I saw so many options for little kids and for men, but none for women who want to look good and do good. So that's how the idea kind of came about. So Modern Picnic was started like really niche and really just like, this is the problem and this is the solution. And it's since turned into like so much more. And I like how everyone said, like, it's so not about the product anymore. Like, who cares about the product? Not who cares, but it's bigger than that. It's not the product, it's the brand and it's the community. And I get asked sometimes, because we were the first to market high-end insulated lunchbox. Before us, that didn't exist, and it still really doesn't exist. And so I get asked, is like, well, what are you going to do when someone just like creates this for themselves? And I always say, you can copy someone's product, you can't copy someone's brand. So, having that like strong foundation of like brand and brand pillars and what you stand for. So like for Modern Picnic, that it always, no matter what, and like now it's like extended so much far beyond like bringing your lunch. We have women carrying it just as handbags, moms carrying breast milk, travelers who don't want to overpay for airport food, whatever it is you're using it for. Having like, it goes back to like that, the brand pillars of women wanting to look good, feel good, and do good, and like you can have it all, and like you don't need to sacrifice one pillar over the other. So like it really, at the end of the day, like no matter what product we come out with or not come out with or whatever, it really goes back to those like brand pillars in that foundation.
Yeah, that's unique that you have something that is unique, because so many other, I mean, you're unique right now. Let's talk 12 months from now. But I guarantee you they're being made in China right now. But your competitors, but this is a very valuable time for you when you're starting up, launching, because you have some time to squeak by and tell your story and really differentiate yourself. And there is a system to writing a clear narrative, and it starts with you really basically trying to create a belief system. And once you create a belief system, you attract others who share your beliefs. And there's a system to that, systematic process to that. So.
Yeah, and it builds, right? It builds those connections, like you were saying, Allie. It's not always just about the product at the end of the day. You know, I could buy a toy for my dog, and I could buy it on Amazon, and it would just come in the package. I give it to him, kind of move on. Or I could go to a local pet store and walk in and have this experience where they're saying, you know, oh, your dog destroys all the toys in 5 minutes. Let's go look at these toys over there. Oh, you don't want to hear squeaking at 8 a.m. in the morning. Let's go try these. And then you come home and there's something different about that product. Even if it's the same product, it's almost been wrapped in a different, you know, gift wrapping, which is this story, which then is something, you know, it's much harder to break up with a friend than it is someone who just kind of does a transactional relationship with you. So then we get into, you know, acquisition and retention and all this stuff, which Patrick, I know you have a lot of great examples of this. Before we get into that though, Patrick, I want to take a step back for the people who are listening, who are saying, you know, oh gosh, I feel like I don't have these pillars. I don't have these like brand stories that I feel really strong about. And that can cause kind of some anxiety going into how do you even begin to start doing that. When you work with clients, what is kind of the first step if you're saying, all right, we need to figure out really like a one page, what is our brand story? What is the thing that we stand for? How do you start to even determine that?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. We deconstruct the brand into 7 pieces. 7. It does start out with the creation myth, the founder's story, usually, how we got started. So it's the creation story. Then there's the creed. What are we all about? So what are we from? Where are we from? What are we all about? Then how do we identify you? Are the icons. So that is the logo. That is the website. It is the product. But it's all icons cover all of the senses. So you have to remember that. So it's the taste of the coffee. It's the smell of the coffee. It's the look of the bags, et cetera, et cetera. And then rituals. We don't want to know how to use you. Yeah, and how do we engage with you? How do we bring you into our lives? And then there's all brands, successful brands have a lexicon that surrounds them. So I don't know what kind of words you have, Jarrett or Allie, but, you know, ice grande, skinny decaf latte, you know, the things we had to learn. We wanted to order from Starbucks, iPad, iPhone, et cetera, et cetera. And so and if you're talking about basketball, a whole different set of things than if you're talking about chess, right? So we have to learn these languages. And then you know, frankly, we have to discover what we're not and what we don't want to become, right? And Jarrett, you've made a very defined approach where you want to be organic, and that's where you're going, right? And Allie, you wanted to have something that was better to walk in the street with, right? And so style is important. And then finally, who's the leader? Who brought all this together, or who's the team that's leading this? And once you do that, you ping. This is important because you ping all the emotional and rational parts of our brains that just help things to make sense. And if you make more sense than the person or the product standing next to you, then you win. And over again, this. So we did construct it into these 7 pieces. We create what we then it becomes. That becomes, once we identify the pieces, the strategic brand narrative. And then it's a matter of how do we distribute that across social, digital, and traditional media. So so that you have that story, so when people say, hey, this is really good coffee, they have your story in mind, so they can tell it back to, and that's how word of mouth grows. So you've created an engine for word of mouth and for belief. Yeah,
and you create champions for your brand, and I love one thing you said too is just a with the words, like a word for us is organic, and nitro is a huge word. One thing we were kind of lucky with at the beginning is we were able to kind of figure it out on the fly on what our story is, because so much of our story was educating the consumer. We were really early to be doing nitro coffee, first of anyone we knew of, certainly in New York City. And we had a little cafe that was smaller than the chair I'm in right now. There's this box. It was about 50 square feet, and we had 2 tap handles. We called them the ones and the twos, and we had a bar that would fold out in the street in New York City. And we would attract people by playing music, and people would come and hang out and be like, what's that? And B, we'd be able to teach them what nitro coffee was. And as you're saying, the lexicon of words, a lot of people told us not to use the word nitro. But, we knew that was something that made us different. People are like, you want to be organic, and nitro makes you sound like Red Bull or Monster. And nitro is organic preservative, and that's what makes us different. And early on, we were kind of faced with some challenges. And one thing that was important for us on the organic side is it was a lot easier to develop products that were not organic. But we kind of said to ourselves, if you don't stand for something, you can fall for a lot of things. And as we've grown,
that was my fortune cookie today. Seriously.
Perfect.
You can fall for anything. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. That's random.
Yeah. I love these points, and something Patrick started to mention, which I kind of want to bridge into, which is actually then, you have this brand narrative, you have this story, you've got your 1-page document, you've got your 30-second brief that you can tell anybody kind of what you do and get that story across right away. Now the question is, how do you get that in front of your consumers, and not just once, but multiple times again and again? Patrick, you shared this stat with us yesterday, which is, people, especially in the US, need to hear or see about your brand in 5 different places on average before they consider buying or using your product. So you're talking multiple channels. You can't just say, all right, here's 5 emails in a row that say, here's my brand story, here's my brand story, here's my brand story. It becomes building this kind of holistic experience. So I'll just kind of open this to all of you to kind of start discussing, how do you start to incorporate the storytelling into your channels and into your branding? How do you think about where to put that and how to make it work for the customer?
So for us, like at Modern Picnic, it was really important for us to live on all channels, because as Patrick said, you need to see things 5 times, and preferably in different forums. So not getting 5 emails in a row or 5 Instagram posts, but just in different ways. And like, while we want to play in every channel, we're not going to excel in every channel. So Kristen, we were talking about this before. We were talking about Twitter, and I was like, for Modern Picnic, Twitter just isn't as strong of a channel for us. But like, with that said, like Instagram, Pinterest, for us, Pinterest is really important, because if you think about it, that's a channel people go to get inspired and to see beautiful things. So, and we have, Pinterest is predominantly women. We have a predominantly women clientele. So it's Instagram, Pinterest, email, TikTok, but also website, but also like the packaging. So this is something we were talking about earlier this week too. It's like making sure like every experience is so cohesive and so beautiful and so on brand, and even back to to opening up the package and making sure it's you're have a sensory overload of all things Modern Picnic, just like when you're walking down the street and hear that music and you see Rise, and it's just this experience, rather than just like drinking coffee. It's like you're part of this like fun community. So that's how that even answers the question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. I think you have to try and, Patrick, you talked about the lexicon of words, and I think you cannot tell all these different messages, but you have to, or I don't know, have to, or just we have to tweak them for different platforms, for different events, for different, email blast versus text blast versus different kind of like events that we're throwing versus what's on our website versus what's on our packaging versus what's on our can. But they all have to take you back to feeling like this is a Rise, this is Rise language, and this is the mission statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think ideally, we want to come up with our just do it, but we're still trying to get there. and you try, especially as like young, challenging brands like we are, you try a bunch of things, and if they work, you pour more resources into it, and if they don't work, then you got to kind of know when to hold them and know when to fold them. But it has to kind of all relate back to the core, and those words become very important. They become like part of your brand, and I think, as you like try and look towards the future, you want to say in like 2 or 3 years, when you see that word or that kind of sentence or those words together, we want people to think about Rise and not even have to see the logo, not even have to know that the can's there, but feel our presence.
You have to make sure that you are true to yourself, and there's such a fear of fucking up, and so you go. People try to go follow everyone out where everyone else is going. So I think it's really important to understand, like Ali was talking earlier today, that she is on Pinterest. She's also on Instagram, but for some people, there's a difference between the two. And if they're on Pinterest, it's much more important than Instagram, or on Twitter or on Facebook, for that matter. And so you have to do what's right for yourself, or YouTube. You have to do what's right for you and for your product and for your audiences. The other stat that goes along with the 5 different places is that it takes 1,000 hours to make a friend. And so if you start adding up I think it's 1,000. I get that mixed up with 10,000 all the time. But anyway, it's 1,000 hours. And so if you add up all the YouTube visits, all the Snapchat intersections and so forth, and the tweets which go by like that, you have a job to do between the 5 different places and 100 hours to establish a relationship or maintain a relationship. And so get going.
Yeah, to Allie's point, you only have so much time and so many resources, so you got to figure out where your friends are. If your friends are not on Twitter, if your friends are not on LinkedIn, if your friends are not on TikTok, if you can only have so much time to like really nurture those friendships and then get those friends to then be champions and attract other friends to your brand. But yeah, we think about that all the time in terms of what channels and.
And of course, the good news is that once you do that, and have been able to do that successfully, you'll, Ali, you should tell your story about TikTok.
Oh my God, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like you can't be everything for everyone. And what Jarrett was saying about like trying different things and just test it. Why not? This is why like digital advertising and marketing is so cool, because like you can try. And then if it doesn't work, you just pull back. And then if it works, you put more into it. So over the summer, we had a summer intern that was in college. And so she's really into TikTok. And she's like, Ali, we should get Modern Picnic on TikTok. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, go for it. Have fun with it. Use our pre-existing assets. Like, we have so much video content. Go use them. Have fun with it. No pressure. Don't do anything crazy. But so she's posting, we're getting like literally like no views, no likes, whatever. Not that I expected anything. And then she posts this video, and she's like, oh my God, Ali, we're at 10,000 views. 2 minutes later, wait, we're at 50,000, 100,000, 300,000, a million, 1.5 million views on this video. That day that we posted that TikTok, revenue 3x'd on our Shopify site. We gained over 1,000 Instagram followers in 24 hours. But aside from that is like the data that we were able to collect, because now we have all these users who came onto our site, and now we're going to hit them with a retargeting Facebook or Google ad. Mm-hmm. And so this was with like a free video that we just like, I was like, just have fun with it. And then afterwards, I was like, okay, we need to sit and talk about this, because how are we going to now grow this? And now TikTok is now a channel for us that we post on multiple times a week. because we have customers on there. Who knew? But also, it's like we also found like maybe these aren't our customers right now, but when they graduate college and they start working, they will be. So it's like we're getting in early with these women. And so it's just so interesting. It just shows that like to not get like stuck in your way, like obviously like Facebook, Instagram, these are the big dogs, but like test different things, try different things, don't put so much pressure behind it, especially channels that are free, you know, like a TikTok.
I love that.
Yeah. You know,
I wonder if TikTok does that so that we talk about them. So we had a similar thing happen where we have like, you know, we did a bunch of TikTok stuff this summer. We had, you know, 10 views, 15 views, 20 views, like, okay, next video, but it was like fun, you know? And then we have, we did I want to say some sort of like 4th of July party. I don't know. It was like some holiday party or something. We're all at the brewery and we had one of our brewers do a keg stand of coffee, and we like pick up his legs and he does a keg stand, and eventually coffee's coming out. He can't do a keg stand for that long. Captured perfectly on our TikTok video, 1.1 million views on the like keg stand. We still have like, you know, 100 followers on TikTok, and the follow-up has been another 10 views.
That's the thing. It was like once you get in that, afterwards your videos started getting all these like views. It's like so crazy.
But you know, I think what it showed us is similar to you, is that was the spike during that time, and so we can bottle it. We should pour more resources into it, and it is a channel. And you know, as we're approaching like 2021, it's going to be something that we're going to kind of revamp and try and figure out how we can do more of that. And largely, we're saying like, well, what's the takeaway there? Well, comedy works. You know, before we started Coffee Brand, I never followed a coffee brand. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, you guys see what Starbucks posted? Like, you know, like didn't happen. So like, why do people follow coffee brands? And I think like one of the main takeaways that we have is what's hitting? Why is that hitting? You know, like inspirational, motivational stuff is something that we care about. People drink coffee every day in the morning, go attack the day. But what really hit and became viral for us was comedy. So how can we play in both of those spaces, both of those worlds?
Yeah, for Red Bull, it was extreme sports.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's actually crazy. It's like years ago when I first moved into the city, I went to a panel and Rise was like a sponsor. Or they were like, they were the drinks at this panel. And like, I can't tell you like where the panel was held, who was speaking, but I remember talking to like the Rise rep and like trying the flavor and like the logo, and like this is so it's like crazy. Jarrett, you did a really good job like establishing a brand that's like memorable. What was that?
Was it me? I'm getting a charger, sorry.
I don't remember, but I just remember like talking. I just like remember this so well. But
thank you.
Yeah. And so guys, as you're listening to this, you can obviously see the long-term impacts of having a strong brand story is that your brand becomes very memorable. Even if someone, you know, you run out of your Rise coffee and you kind of forget about it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm out of coffee. I could just go run to the grocery store and get my iced coffee. But I already have this ritual with Rise. I already have the way that I do it. I already have a connection with them, like Patrick was saying, almost as a friend in my life. And they've been that important to my daily rituals, to my morning, that now retention becomes really easy. So getting someone to buy again and again becomes a lot easier because you've already gotten that personal connection. Because we talked about, you know, there are emotional and logical things that are going on when someone decides to purchase, and to get them over that emotional hurdle, a lot of times comes down to the human-to-human connection. And that's where we're seeing commerce trending towards, is more towards relational, social commerce, away from transactional commerce that you see more on kind of Amazon or Walmart, where it's just very, you know, you buy your product, you get your product, and you move on. So guys, we are kind of running out of time. This has been such an incredible conversation. I want to make sure to open up the chat right now. If you guys have any questions at all for our panelists or for me, drop them in the event chat and we will get some of those answered, because these are some incredibly brilliant people we have on today. So don't miss your chance to do it. I have a question that I can kind of start off with. Patrick, maybe you can take this one. As you know, we're talking about all these channels. There's TikTok, there's Twitter, there's Snapchat, there's Instagram, Facebook. you can write blog content, you can do video content. It becomes, especially for a small team, very overwhelming to even think about, where do we start? What do we do? How can we manage all these channels? Like Ali was saying, Twitter's not for them, and they don't have the time, the resources, or it's just not the place where their customers are spending their time. If you're kind of on that day one of trying to figure out what channels are the best mix for you, how do you even start to figure that out?
Well, I would start by, you're looking for people who are sort of like you anyway. So I guess the quick answer is, what are the things that you like? And start with those, and then start with the things that your friends like. That Ali's experience, someone said, I'm on TikTok, why don't we try TikTok, right? And so it is a little bit of a guessing game, except that there are things that we know that people do and like to do. I mean, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or TikTok or Snapchat or whatever it is. And so and that's where you have to remember that people need to see you in 5 different places. So pick those 5.
Yeah.
And start there. So,
yeah.
And you have to also, as you were talking, guys were talking, I was reminded that really a brand is a community. And just think of all the communities that you belong to in your life. You're a music fan, you're a part of a family, you might have a religion, you drive a car maybe, or you commute or something. And you might go to certain kinds of foods, pizza or Chinese, and today, and so we all belong to these different kinds of communities, and those are all brands. And so the things that we like and that we care about are brands, whether it's coronavirus or Black Lives Matter or Nike.
Yeah. One of my favorite things that you said in there was, we talked about the 5 channels, and that's a really great tactical starting point to start out with. I think it was one of the first things I ever learned in my marketing career was pick your stack and stick with it. And I think that's a good lesson as well, as all these conversational channels that you own or rent, which is, are you renting ad space through Facebook, or do you own an email list that is your channel to own? So you can start to divide between those, but then also sticking with them for a little bit. You'll probably know pretty quickly off the bat if there's something that's a terrible fit. With Modern Picnic and Twitter, it just very clearly it's not the right fit for them to go all out on. But you can spend, pick your 5, find your topics that you want to talk about, make a content calendar, and stick with it for 6 months, and then see how things go from there. And then you can start to kind of adjust based off those results. But again, coming down to, you made that one pager that we talked about at the beginning, this kind of brand declaration, you always know where your center is, and then you can start kind of testing outside of that. One other thing that I wanted to ask about, because we brought it up, and it's one of my favorite topics, and that is the unboxing. There is we're talking about all these points in the customer journey that you have these moments to connect with your audience on a human level. And a lot of times we're looking at, open rates, click-through rates, engagement rates. Are we getting in front of people? The box that arrives at somebody's doorstep is the only point in the entire customer experience journey that will guarantee 100% open rate. Somebody is going to open that box, and they're going to engage with your brand in that moment. So there's a really big opportunity that actually a lot of brands kind of fall short on. I'll just open this up to you guys. Ali, Jarrett, maybe you guys have some cool ideas of things that you've done in that unboxing moment to drive the storytelling line a little bit further.
Yeah, so for us, the packaging was from the very first sale we made, our packaging has been a big focal point for us, because I wanted, exactly as you said, I wanted it to be an experience when you opened it up, and it to be beautiful and on brand. And it's this one, you get this people are so inundated with information, and they might be seeing your Instagram post, but they're also getting 500 emails on the side, and they may be on a call, and they may be feeding their dog, whatever. But when you open up a package, you get to be in their home with them and get this one-on-one time. How special you and your customer, they've gone through the sales cycle, they've made a purchase from you, and now you're in their home with you. So for us, it was just something I took really seriously from the start. And okay, when we just started, we had absolutely no money to work with, and we're tiny, but I was I don't care, whatever we do have, I'm gonna put it towards packaging, making sure everything from the tape on the box to the actual box, when you open our box, it says not your average lunchbox, insulated interior, X vegan leather exterior. Why? Because we were creating this new weird product. And, that didn't exist. So I knew if we were to send it out to someone, or I wanted them to open it and immediately know what they were receiving, because it wasn't it didn't explain itself. And so, yeah, I think packaging is so important. And then it goes back to user generated content and community. And if you give someone something to post about and share with their friends, or if you make it something special and you make it an experience, and then that goes where it's buying on an Amazon or a Walmart versus buying from a brand individually. You just get such a more one-on-one, or even it's just such a, for instance, I'll give you a bad example. We there was this, oh my God, this poor customer, I don't know how, but her order just got a little messed up. It doesn't have, sometimes it happens, sometimes we mess up, whatever. So we made sure in her box was a handwritten note, apologizing because we messed up, and we put a Modern Picnic baseball hat in it, and we put a little piece of chocolate, and it's just those little extra touches within your packaging that goes from losing a customer to creating a lifetime customer, an ambassador,
Yeah, we've got a somewhat, similar approach. Customer service is so important now. And that's a huge part of what we do. We still feel like we're everybody we're selling coffee to is, a close friend or a family member. It's just how we started, and it's how we will be. So totally agree. You go above and beyond if someone has a bad experience, and show them how much you care about them. For our packaging too, we thought it was really important to see the can. So as you were mentioning, Walmart, or as you're walking through the shelf, if you see our 4-pack, we want you to be able to see the can in there, be able to touch it, move it around, look at the nutritional panel for yourself if you want to twist it around. But yeah, everything about that experience is wildly important. And, Steve Jobs really helped create and change the game there.
Yes.
And that obviously worked. But, I remember reading or listening to his book on tape with Walter Isaacson and hearing about how he kept going into the programmers and trying to get them to lower cost. And their pushback was, you keep trying to get us to lower cost on the actual computer, and you keep raising the cost on the packaging. But it was all about creating that amazing experience. As Kristen said, that product's coming into the home, and that's such a great time for people to kind of experience who you are and what your brand's all about.
It's a tactile sensory experience.
Yeah. Which is something with e-commerce that you don't get, that you get in walking into a store. You can walk in and you're in the world of the brand that you're in, right? There's a certain scent that they've picked on purpose. Their counters are a certain way on purpose. Sometimes the temperature is a certain way on purpose. And so you don't get that when you're shopping online. So the box is your one time to really bring them into the world of your product. We've got one great question. Patrick, I'll shoot this to you. Mark asked, speaking of owned media, like email, SMS, and your website versus paid media, Facebook ads, Google ads, etc., if you as a brand could only choose one or the other, which would you choose and why?
Well, you have to be in 5 different things. So I would choose whatever's appropriate for the company among those 5. And whether it's paid or earned or whatever it was, it doesn't really, those are distinctions that really don't matter anymore. Mm-hmm. Who cares? I think the distinction between social, digital, and traditional might matter somewhat. But I think that we all live big lives these days, and big social lives and big digital lives, and those things are, that's where all the money goes. So
yeah.
I make a decision based on that, and not whether it's earned or whatever.
Yeah. Mark, my advice on that would be, making sure you're looking at the margins and the money and how much it's going to cost to run paid ad tests, but also remember the power of those owned channels and that you can use them to actually test out your messaging to figure out what gets customers to click, what gets them to engage with your emails, with your text messages, and then take those learnings over to the paid creative. So you're not paying for as many tests as you could be with the customers that are already there raising their hands saying, hey, I want to hear from you. I do like your brand. They'll tell you a lot of information with their clicks, with their opens. And then always you can get on the phone with your customers. You can do surveys, actually hearing from them. So yeah, thinking through those 5 channels, but being very smart about how you use them, where you test messaging to be the most efficient on all those different channels.
Right
Yeah.
on.
You see in the outline that, or the structure that I pointed out before: creation, story, creed, icons, rituals, sacred words, non-believers, and leader. You can do all that for free. And we won an award in 2016, the Gold Award for Ecotourism in Africa. Just doing that, we spent no money. We had 0 money. And so it can be done.
Yeah, I think people see through it if it looks just paid and then you pay to promote it. People see through that. They don't really like that, this day and age. They don't want to see a photo of somebody holding up something and being like, Centauri Times. It'd rather be like someone's actually drinking it and cares about it. And I think I really agree with you, Kristen. It's like what we try and think about is when we talk about what we're going to pay to promote or to pay to get out there, a lot of times it's let's launch it organically, see how it does, see what the reception is, and then repurpose it in other channels and then pay to promote it in those other channels.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to all of that, especially for Shopify people, is that pay attention to your first customers. The first 25 or 150 customers, depending on your volume, find out what it is about you that makes you sticky for them. And why do they come back? And so we call them zealots, but they're your advocates really, and find out what's going on with them and ask them what media you should be in. Ask them what new product developments they're looking for.
And why do they leave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What pages are they bouncing on? Where's the high bounce rate? What message is not resonating? How can you twist that and change that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. It looks like we are just about out of time. I'll let Richard kind of pop back in here and close us out today.
Yeah.
Hey, Richard, we had fun.
Yeah, I mean,
we had fun.
I had fun. I was like chilling here, and I was like, "Oh, am I on camera?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm not." And I want to thank all the panelists here. Like, this was one of our most legit stacked panels. Like, again, you guys were joining us from all over the country and with such unique point of views on the e-commerce space, but also brand. And I even talked about this on LinkedIn today. Like, there's so much talk in the marketing world about performance marketing, brand marketing. One's better than the other, but truly, they really aren't better than each other. They're equally important, and they serve different for the funnel.
They depend on each other, really.
They're not really exclusive.
Exactly. So with that said, we hope that you're able to take something home with you today, get working on your 7 pieces of code to help you build out that brand story. But also, this isn't the end of this community that we've been able to build in partnership with many folks here. There's plenty of ways to join the Shopify Meetup community, and you can follow any of these brands and continue the conversation. Check out Kristen LaFrance's awesome podcast. There's great stuff coming out there as well. Check out Patrick Hanlon's book, which is required by all YouTube readers. Super humble guy there. Enjoy some Rise Brewing, or take your lunch out with Allie's awesome bag.
Or put your Rise in your lunchbox.
I hear partnerships happening.
I see a giveaway coming.
There we go.
Allie strikes and scores.
Absolutely. And just as a correction, everyone, at the very beginning, I did misname one of the hosts. It's not Icee Social, it is Icee Social. Just owning up to that. But with that said, if you want to check out the sponsors, you can go hang out in the expo area. They've got some great videos so you can learn a little bit more about conversational marketing, as well as how to build your headless commerce site through Shogun. And Refersion, we're in there as well. So if you've got great ambassadors that you want to help move tell your story through your customers, ambassadors, influencers, affiliates, you can go check us out there as well. There's also going to be some one-to-one networking as well. Oh, actually, I'm incorrect. I think there is one-to-one networking. So check that out on the left side. But thank you so much for attending, everyone. We look forward to seeing you in 2021.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.